I figured I'd make a video on this real quick. A lot of you guys are probably wondering how to check to see if your engine's running hot. Maybe when you're driving down the road, you're going, man, I wonder if my engine's getting hot right now. There's a lot of different ways to check that, and I'll kind of go over a couple of them when you're driving. So there's the while you're driving stuff you should always be doing. When you're driving a VW, you should be aware that there's a potential that the engine's going to run hot, especially when you're climbing long hills and stuff like that. And those indicators will get you to get out of the car and check to do. A lot of people do the dipstick method. You know, they'll say if you can't grab the dipstick for more than 5 seconds, then your engine's running too hot. You know, if you can't hold it. But some people have really sensitive fingers, and they'll think their engine's running hot by just touching the dipstick, and they're, you know, not used to pulling out a hot spark plug or something like that. So they go, oh man, the engine's hot because the dipstick's a little bit hot. That's not always going to be the case, but you know, that is a pretty good method when you're outside of the car. But when you're driving the car, the indicators are always one of the things is when you're driving down the road and you floor it and you hear any sort of detonation. If you hear any pinging, your engine pinging, detonation, that's the same thing. Then that's an indicator that your engine is running hot. So you might want to, you know, get off the highway, let it cool down for a while, you know, and check your belt and stuff like that. Make sure that it's still there. A lot of times your belt will actually come off and you didn't know it, and you always watch for that generator light coming on. So if the generator light comes on, be sure to pull over, make sure your belt's still on. That tends to happen often, depending on, you know, some people have like their offset of their generator is in the wrong place, and when you rev up the engine really high, it'll throw the belt. So you need to make sure that your my belt is toast. I need to replace this one really bad. And it's because the wear in the pulleys, a lot of times, you know, you have an old pulley that's rusty, and the rust inside here also, or in the top pulley, will wear the belt away and cause it to, you know, be loose or actually slip, you know, because it's not tight enough. Again, I'm just going to put this in the same video because some of you guys might be watching this for the first time, to make sure that you have no holes in the back of your tin anywhere. Make sure that you have, if you have these things on here, that either the holes are plugged and these holes are covered with tape or something. I usually use foil tape if I don't have these tubes in here. So all these holes, there shouldn't be any open holes in the back of your tin ever. You should never have these disconnected and just blowing inside your engine compartment. You lose all your fan air that way. Really hard on the engine will make it run hot automatically. So yeah, if you floor it, that's one thing. Another thing is if you get off the freeway or highway and you come down to an idle, and you notice that the idle starts loping and start going really slowly and starts slowing down, that's an indicator that your engine's running a little hot. It might still be okay. Sometimes you need to just kind of run it you know, like put it in like third and just run it like, you know, at maybe 35 for a little while and let that air just run through the engine, kind of, so the engine's just kind of running freely for a little while, and then cool it off, and then pull over maybe and let it cool down for a little while, because the first 5 or so 10 seconds after you turn your engine off, it actually gets hotter than it does when it's going down the road, because there's no air going through anything. So you have to let it sit for a good 20 to 30 minutes before, you know, maybe open up the engine lid, leave it open for a while and let it cool. Some of the other things that'll tell you, those are the most important things. Other things to look at now. So if you find out your engine's running hot all the time, so I'm going to talk about things that you can do to repair, and some of this stuff's going to be repetitive for some of my other videos. But again, some of you guys are watching my video for the first time because of the subject, and the things you need to check if you're constantly if you're having pinging problems, if you're having problems with your or it comes down to idle and starts idling rough, or you're touching your dipstick for more than 5 seconds and it's burning the hell out of your hands. Those are all indicators your engine's running hot. So if you have one of those things going on, the first thing you want to do is, of course, check your timing. Make sure that your total advance is about 29 degrees at the most for most engines. Sometimes I've had them run higher than that because that's running really low compression and a very large cam. Very rare situations that you'll have more than that. The other thing you want to make sure is that your main jet is rich enough. Again, so another way to kind of know that is if you get behind your car and the first thing you smell is hydrocarbons, which are something you can smell. A lot of people think, oh, I'm smelling fuel coming out of my tailpipe, but they're actually smelling hydrocarbons, because actual rich fuel usually you can't smell as much, because remember the old saying that carbon monoxide, which is from richness, is actually an odorless killer. So if you can remember that, that'll tell you that if you come behind your car and you're smelling this really almost like rotten smell, then probably your carburetor is too lean or you have a misfire. So what causes hydrocarbons are an engine misfire of some kind. So hydrocarbons are caused by a misfire. So you can have a misfire from bad spark plugs, bad points, a bad condenser can also cause hydrocarbons, but more commonly it's because your engine's too lean. So you could have a intake manifold vacuum leak. You check for those things to make sure, by spraying carburetor spray around some of the fittings and things like that. Be careful of using that around the distributor cap, because it can immediately catch fire. But if you just use that a little bit around your openings to make sure you don't have a intake manifold vacuum leak, and then check your main jet, and you want to richen up your main jet to the point where the engine starts running a little bit lopey, and then lean it out just to maybe the next leanest jet from there. Those are ways to make sure your engine's not continuously running hot. Let me show you another thing that I use that is controversial, but it actually does work. All right, so take a little step back into the storeroom here. Got some cool parts in here. Anyway, so we're in the storeroom here taking a look. I'll show you something that is controversial, but it does work, and in my opinion is much better than the old school way. They have these here. They came on your on your bug between your cylinders. And this works on all applications that I've tried it on, including if you look at the CarCraft website, they'll say do not use these Type 3 with heater boxes. But I will tell you that I've tried it with the heater boxes and all the tin that's on it. Every application I've tried it on, these actually make your engine run quite a bit cooler. And that's why they put them on the Type 3s. That's why they put them on Porsches. That's why they put them on Type 4s, to keep your engine from running hot. So what they do is they go on the bottom of the cylinders, and it replaces this style tin that you had right here, which went between your cylinders as you put your engine together. It goes underneath the push rods. So if you were going to try and add these to your car, you're going to need to get the spring-loaded push rods or pull your heads off, one of the two. And you remove this style tin. And they used to be sold as something called Kewl tin. I think it was spelled Kewl back in the old days. I don't know now. But if you ask for Type 3 engine tin and put them on your upright engine, let me tell you what they do. and we'll kind of go over that. So if you see here, they have these deflectors for the heads to keep the air going all the way. What it does is it takes the air, comes down from your fan shroud through your tin, or your engine tin on this side. They have this upside down right now, and it directs the air to go all the way around your cylinder, so that it has to go around your cylinder all the way and out these metered holes. Okay, where this style just was stuck between your cylinders, so the air that came out between here just kind of went willy-nilly, and there was nothing to help direct the air around this part of your head. So you would lose air, was not being efficiently run around the engine with this style. Now, there was a bulletin out that said, from VW, that said that this style engine tin does not work and does not cool the engine on a Type 1. And I believe the reason, and we tested it, I found that not to be true. The reason I think they did that is because maybe the dealers at that time were adding this, saying, hey, look, we can make your engine run a little cooler, we can put this on, and charging a big amount of money to do it. And guys were going out and just running their VWs at 80 miles an hour, and then going back to the dealer and going, hey, you guys told me that this stuff makes my engine run cooler, and I burned up my engine, or whatever. Or another theory would be because if they say that this works, if this actually was told to be working better than this tin, then they would be being told that they're not building their engines correctly. Basically, it would be an engineering flaw. And well, would they ever admit they had an engineering flaw? No, they're not going to admit that, because that means lawsuits, liability issues, and things like that. And again, I'm saying use your own risk. If you want to, put a cylinder head temperature sensor on and test it before and after, and I think you're going to find that what we found was runs quite a bit cooler with this style tin. And if you look at it from an engineering standpoint, it directs the air to go all the way around your cylinder and all the way through all of your head vanes and go out only this area and that area, so that the air is used most efficiently. This style is just kind of a plate there, and there's a lot of loss. If you look here around both sides of your cylinder, you're going to have some major loss, because between here and here is where your air is going to come out, and it doesn't require it to go all the way around your cylinder. If you look at the inside of that, so it makes it go all the way around the cylinder, come out that hole. So squarebacks tend to run hotter than bugs. That's why they put them on them. And it was, I'm sure that's the reason why they started this. Some people say it's because the air comes from the rear and goes in. I'm not. Air is air. Doesn't matter which direction it comes. Still has to go all the way around the cylinders with this, and it doesn't with these. So I don't know. My experience has been that these make your engine run quite a bit cooler. We've tested them, especially on performance engines, found out that it definitely works. One of the things that you need to do is, when you do put these on, and what people do, and they do it wrong, is you got to punch holes in here and actually use baling wire and wire them up tight to the cylinders. So you can't this isn't just to shove it in and have it be loose and falling out and have it work. You have to actually make sure that it's always in there tight, and that this thing goes up against the cylinder tight. So you have to run a piece of baling wire up over the tops of your cylinders and over to the other side, and pull it tight and make sure that it's up against here really tight, and it can't fall out, can't come loose, because that would definitely cause it to run hotter. So just a little theory we have, something I've been doing for years. Again, if you have heater boxes, if you have this style tin, if you have the tin that goes down and around, some people are going to tell you that it doesn't work. but I found even with the tin that goes down and around, heater boxes, all the other tin that comes on this engine, and these, it actually does run cooler because it requires the air to go all the way around the cylinders. Can't go wrong with that theory. So anyway, those are just a few things about engine cooling, and summer's coming up. Another good piece of advice is when it's over 100 degrees, might be a good time to leave the VW in the garage. It's really hard on the engine when it's running when it's at, as they say, 96, I think 98 degrees. Yeah, around there, I guess. But over 100 is definitely not a good day for a VW, and especially when the air is extremely dry. Air sometimes can be bad for the engine because it's thinner. Typically, heavier air can be better for the engine because it's got more of it. There's more substance to it. But if it's really hot and heavy air, then that can actually kind of backfire on you. So, thinking about the air that you're in and things, another thing that I was going to do at one point and I haven't done was on the back of the fan shroud back here. This is the doghouse fan shroud here. Have one of these on your car is really good, but you need to make sure you have the door that goes back and puts the air down, and then have the rear tin on it as well. But I was going to say, I forgot. One of the things I always wanted to try was to make a pump sprayer, your typical garden sprayer, and then get some of those garden or the nozzles for the misters and put a few of those back here to kind of cool the air going in. But it's just one of those things I've never done, but I think it would probably work to help the engine run a little bit cooler. If you're trying to run, especially in the dry heat where you guys are like Arizona, Nevada, New Mexico, stuff like that, where it's dry and hot, adding that mister there might help the air that's going into your engine to help it run a little cooler if you're going to drive in those hot days. So anyway, just a few little things. In Texas too, you guys in Texas, that's the both ends. You get the hot and the humidity. Great, love that. Anyway, I'll talk to you guys in the next video. Just a little stuff about your engine, how to know when it's running hot. Talk to you in the next video. Please like, share, and subscribe.